Hi, I'm Larry Becker. Today I have an overview of the Sekonic C-700R SpectroMaster. There's also a model called the C-700 that's similar to the C-700R in every way but one, and we'll talk about that special feature a little later in this video. It's a one-of-a-kind light spectrum tool, and it does some things no other spectrometers offer. This impressive tool is intended for photographers, videographers, cinematographers, gaffers, and it could even be used by anyone who needs to set up and control lighting in an environment. So a museum display specialist could potentially use a C-700 or C-700R, for instance. In this video, we'll look at the basic layout and the functionality of the device. We'll look at the kinds of light measurements the C-700R can display, and we'll cover what makes this instrument unique. You should think of either the Sekonic C-700 or the C-700R as a field meter for working with light sources on site rather than a device to help lighting engineers design and measure various new lights. We'd call those industrial meters. So right up front, that's one way the C-700R is different from most of the spectrometers and color meters out there. To begin with, the light receptor is surrounded by a light selection ring. For the C-700R to be turned on and self-calibrate, you need to position that ring indicator to the bottom. It's labeled Dark Calibration. Press the power button, and once it confirms that it has completed the dark calibration, you just rotate the dial to the middle position for normal use. By default, it will display the last screen it was on. So to get to the main display mode selection screen, in order to take a reading, just press the menu button. Think of the menu button as a home button because pressing it will always take you back to this main screen. Now, this device uses a touch screen, but I'd call it a mash screen because you don't touch the on-screen controls like you're used to on a smartphone. Instead, you have to give it a sharp tap with the tip of your finger. The screen was purposely designed this way to prevent accidentally changing settings when retrieving the meter from a pocket or passing it to another person. It even works with gloves on if they're not too thick. The head of the unit rotates to the left 90 degrees or to the right 180 degrees. There's a measuring button on the right that's always easily accessible, and there's a USB port and a PC flash port under rubber covers on the bottom of the unit. It runs on two AA batteries, and on the back is a 1/4" 20 socket for mounting to various photographic supports such as mini pods, tripods, and light stands, so you can position the unit where it needs to be hands-free. I should note that while there are certainly great benefits to photographers who would use a meter to help capture a particular look with the right blend of flash and constant light, the C-700R is a different animal altogether. It's a light analyzing tool and categorically not a light or a flash meter that displays f-stops and shutter speeds after taking a reading. From the home screen, remember it's called the display mode selection screen, you can get to all of the various kinds of measurements, and at the bottom right is the settings icon where you adjust system settings. For instance, if you want to use a particular lighting filter brand, you'd go into settings, pick the brand of filters that you plan to use, and later your measurements will reflect that brand of filters. Going through the main screen options at the top left of the screen is access to measurements that display as text. You can also launch spectrum readings. You can go into a mode where you can take multiple spectrum readings and compare them with one another with overlaid spectrum curves. You can launch the CRI mode to measure the light against calibrated color reference samples to get your RA, also called a CRI reading. And with the camera and lighting screens, you can use their readouts to determine what filters to use on lights or on cameras to achieve your target color temperature. There's also a Multilight Screen, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we discuss unique features. And you also have the ability to store various measurements to recall or cross-compare later. Let's look quickly into the text mode screen so that you can get a feel for how measurements are taken and the kind of flexibility that you have to work with the standards that you want to use. On the text screen, you see the light reading expressed in 5 different ways, and at the top center is a target value expressed in Kelvin. Press the target value and you can reset it to whatever you like. And as for the values, you have more options for readouts than the 5 that are displayed here. So for example, if you'd rather have a lux reading instead of foot candles, press the FC measurement at the bottom, press lux, and your measurements will be expressed in terms of lux illuminance. In all, this library offers 9 ways to display the data most important to your situation. The Spectrum display screen has 3 values for color temperature, LB, and CC filtration at the top of the screen, like the text screen does, and pressing any one of the windows takes you to the data display library where you have the same options as the text screen. This vivid color spectrum occupies the bottom half of the screen, but pressing the magnifying glass gives you an enlarged horizontal view, so you can see even more detail. This is especially important because regardless which mode you're using for measurement, the C-700R can measure in increments as small as 1 nanometer. That can reveal narrow spikes that negatively affect color fidelity and which might be missed with other meters. The C-700R can measure CRI, which is also called RA, and it provides a bar graph to display the color fidelity of calibrated sample colors. And this can be helpful for DPs or lighting experts who need to know how colors will render on set. You might have a light with an average CRI of 96, for example, but its individual red reading is 70. This is definitely not the light you want to use to shoot a predominantly red scene. For DPs and shooters looking for filter information, there are camera filter and lighting filter screens. And they get really specific, telling you what Kodak Raton, Lee, or Fuji camera filters would be best to use. While in lighting filter mode, you see Rosco Cinegel, Rosco E-Color Plus, or Lee filter values displayed. For photographers who are looking for a familiar way to correct manually for white balance, just bring up the white balance correction screen and note the measurement on the balance correction graph. It looks like what we're used to seeing on our Canon, Nikon, and Sony DSLRs. The Multilight Screen is especially impressive, allowing you to measure multiple light sources and compare them to a target light value or values. It's an easy way to match lights to each other or achieve a desired effect. You just choose one of the memory slots labeled A through D, point the light receptor at one light source, take the measurement, and confirm it. Now, select the next memory slot and just repeat the process. One more thing that makes the Sekonic C-700R really stand out is the fact that it can measure the color of a flash, and it can even trigger PocketWizard flash system units. Earlier I mentioned that there's also a C-700. That unit is identical in every way, but it won't fire flashes using PocketWizard triggers. In most screens, you see an icon that looks like a snowflake. That means that the unit is set to measure ambient light. But if you press it, you see that you'll have the option to measure a cordless flash, a PC-connected flash, or a radio-triggered flash. The Sekonic C-700R SpectroMaster is an incredibly powerful, specific tool when it comes to measuring the color values of various light sources in a scene. I would imagine Hollywood DPs will love the idea of walking into a scene, pointing the C-700R at a light source, and quickly telling the gaffer exactly which Cinegel filter each light source needs to hit the target color temperature for the scene. This tool, in the right hands, will speed up the process of lighting a scene accurately like nothing else. For B&H and Kelby One, I'm Larry Becker. Thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.
We all know the difference a great teacher makes. They inspire you, challenge you, and push you to do the things you never thought you could. For creatives, that means you've got to know your tools inside and out, whether it's Photoshop or photography, lighting or Lightroom, InDesign or After Effects. And while there are free videos out there, you have to watch 30 bad ones just to find a decent one. And a lot of times, the techniques are either outdated, complicated, or just plain wrong. What we need is a better way to learn. One that connects amazing teachers with creative people all over the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A thriving educational community with nothing but the most talented, engaging, and respected teachers in the industry. Then we simplify the whole learning process with short, clear, concise classes. That's exactly what we've created for you right here at Kelby One.